Hello. So prepared. How's it going, Gabe? That's just my eyes. I'm not good at... There. Can you hear me now? Is it morning where you are? Where am I? What time is it? Alright, so I started painting this and for my short film, and I realized, like, once I got everything like cleaned up and the flats put in, that it's not gonna work at all. It doesn't look scary enough, but I still want to paint it because I think it's cute. So that's happening. Oh, my husband sleeps all day too. It's really annoying. He works nights. Why you gotta be like that? Oh, it's over there. There you go. I feel like I should make these all different colors so I could see what one I'm clicking on, but that wouldn't be very sensible. That one. I had some color reference around too, but of course I didn't get that ready. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. There we go. That's the one I'm going to reference for color. So I'll just drag it in to the scene. Really only need these guys. The rest of you can get lost. So I did all these flats, but I didn't bother doing any of the tree trunks and stuff, so I might regret that as I go along. Although it's just tree stuff, I suppose I could just slap... You just keep slapping green on top of green. That's what trees look like, right? Oh, I guess once I get this done, I could cut and paste it onto another layer. I attended a Stylus Rumble live stream veggie. She was famous. What do you mean? Am I famous? I'm super internet famous, you guys. I have like 500 subscribers now. Pretty much top of the list on the whole internet thing. I'm gonna have to move over, Jazza, because I'm coming to get you. Oh, before she was famous? Yeah, that makes more sense. I feel like I'm moderately famous. I've had people recognize me at work events, so I feel like that's pretty famous. They're like, "Oh, I watch your channel," and I'm like, "What?" Real life humans who've watched my channel, one of the 500. I made me feel pretty famous. I don't know how many of my subscribers are actually in Ontario. I know I have a few friends that like give me pity subs. They're probably better than I am, and they're like, "Oh, I'll watch your channel and learn your little tricks, Tracy. You're so cute." I'm going musicless this time because apparently some of my European subscribers like to watch the live stream the next day, which I found surprising. So I gotta make sure that YouTube's not gonna get mad at me for listening to music. Maybe there's, I don't know if anybody knows of like a not copyright music streaming service. I might have to go look into that just because I feel like I'd be bored just watching someone paint silently. Although I guess you could play your own music over the top of me. That's always possible. I like doing these really dark. So, like, I'm not just putting in random colors right now. I like putting in really dark shadows that are really vibrant underneath stuff like tree bark. Because sometimes little bits of purple get left behind, and I feel like it looks nicer. And it keeps me from getting too desaturated when I have these giant blocks of, like, obnoxious color underneath. And then I'll go in over the top and put in some of these more beigey browns to do the trunk stuff. And once it's all put together, it doesn't look too shabby. So let's separate the tree trunks. That's smart. I don't remember if I did... Yeah, I think everything here is the same color. So this is kind of an older... background painting that I've done in a similar style. Since I went to all the trouble of figuring out this color scheme long ago, I don't want to make a new one because colors are so hard for me, guys. Taking off my sweater. My house can't decide on a temperature, so I keep changing my mind on it. So, but if you look close at these, you can see all that purple sticking through. I think it looks kind of cool. Purple trees. Forget brown. I'm not using no brown in here. But I did get some Kyle brushes. So I have all these brushes now. So I don't know if I'm actually going to break those out. I probably won't make you guys watch me do that today. That's something I'll do on my own time. Just sit there and make swatches. Or maybe I'll do a special, like, swatch stream. Like, watch me make Kyle swatches. Alright, I haven't even determined my light source. That's not smart. So I think my light has to be on the front of the house. So we'll put a big light here. I have a really bad memory, so I like to put just giant reminders of things in my scene. So I'll just do this. Be like, okay, my light is coming from this direction because it's shining down on the house. So I want this side lit. That makes the most sense. See what we can do with this tree. I'm gonna get rid of all the line work too. I didn't take a long time to get really precise line work. Otherwise this tree would have no texture, it'd just be like an outline. That would feel kind of lame. If anyone out in Viewerland has questions about stuff, doesn't have to be related to this painting, it could be animation-y stuff, I don't mind answering those sorts of things. That's why I go live after all, so that you guys have access to question time. Should be more yellow. I've been really tempted lately to take some of the Imaginism classes on painting with light. I think that's something I could really benefit from. Then I'm like, oh, where will I put it in my schedule? Do I really need another hobby? It's not the worst. I didn't like that giant texture brush. I had some really nice foliage brushes that I was a fan of, but then I got a new computer and now I don't have any sort of cheat brushes for this stuff. I either have to build some new ones or find something. Or actually, like, go through these new brushes, these Kyle brushes I have. I don't like that at all. I don't know how I feel about that either. I'm gonna fill in these gaps though. I feel like that's smart. Maybe I'll just do big volume shadows and stuff first. I don't want to subject you guys to me just fiddling with brushes the whole time. Doing big shadows always feels like you're getting something done, even if you're not really getting much done. But it feels productive. Maybe I should keep the bush stuff a little bit more yellowy green instead of blue green. Maybe. And if I need something a little bit grayer, I try to make grays out of the colors that I have. That way nothing is just showing up all crazy styles out of like left field color-wise. If you're bad at color like me, I highly recommend, there are a few good apps out there where it'll give you like a quadratic color scheme or like you can just say, hey, I need 4 different colors, help me, and you pick your favorite color and it'll choose the other 3 for you, and then just slavishly hold steady to those colors and you won't go wrong. I don't use my own brain for color. It's not a thing I can do. I'll phone a friend. I have a friend who's really good at color styling, and I'll just be like, can you like just tell me what colors to use? Thanks. Don't be afraid to acknowledge your weaknesses. I'm gonna make this a bit greener. It must be darker though. Darker and greener, but also greener. I've got this weird one back here. I've been doing lots of flower studies lately to try and get more interest in my flower shapes. Just wander around my neighborhood. My neighbors must all think I'm nuts now because I just like sit in the bushes and draw people's plants. Oh, hi, Lena. I know you. I remember you from the good old days. If you guys have any Toon Boom related questions while you're here, don't be shy. I'll definitely open it up if you guys want some learning. So onto layer 2. Is anybody else painting, drawing, animating? What you doing out there? You're so quiet. I know you're out there. It tells me so. Stop being so precious with these. I can just draw leaves. I don't have to outline every blade of grass. That's crazy. I could just layer it over at the top. Silly Tracy. I should have just separated this all out the first time. But I was lazy, and now I'm paying the price. Why do I draw so many leaves? I don't know why I always get myself into this mess. I'm like, oh, I'll just do a little background with a house. And then I draw a little house about the size of a stamp. And then I just draw a million flowers. And I'm like, yeah, this will be great. What could possibly go wrong? 63 hours later. There you go. There's some trunks. There. So that makes things a little bit easier. The newer versions of Photoshop sometimes will like bounce you out of your layer into another layer. I don't know how many times like I'll accidentally control click like over here and it'll switch me into another layer and I'll just draw in all this stuff. Or it's masked and I can't draw anything and I'm just like, what's happening? Or even worse, it's invisible and for some reason you can draw in an invisible layer. So I'm just there drawing away on something I can't see and be like, why can't I see anything? And it's just a fiasco. I don't know how to turn it off though. I feel like that's something I should spend the time looking at. Why are you doing that? See, now it's doing weird stuff. Oh, new versions of things. I love when they fix things worse. So like, oh, we're gonna implement all these fixes and then it's way worse than it was. Why? And I gotta fill in behind these guys again. This is really green though. It's not supposed to be that color. It should be lighter. Maybe I'll play with my levels later and just figure out what has to be lighter and what has to be darker. Hi, who's Robinson? Welcome to painting time / Q&A. If anybody has burning questions about animation or anything, don't be shy. I don't mind switching out of the program. As much fun as it probably is to watch me paint 7,000 leaves. I'm always happy to teach you guys. It was super fun to teach you in real life. That's even more fun, because then I can see you guys. I feel like I should have a hangout or something one day. I have a few people who kick around all the time. I think it'd be fun to get together with you guys. It is hypnotic leaves. Once I get into some of these little flowers and stuff, or just like rendering out the rocks, huh? Or these guys? Oh, that'd be good times. I don't watch a lot of live stream art. I love when they time lapse it. So if they compress like 24 hours of painting into like 25 minutes or something, that I can do. but not like massive art marathons. Unless they have a really soothing voice. Like James Gurney, I could listen to him paint all day. I watched his entire like YouTube catalog in 2 days, so I listened to him paint for about 13 and a half, 14 hours over 2 days. And then I immediately had to like haul my gouache out of storage. I was like, oh, I can paint just like him after all this like watching videos. I'm like, I could totally do this, and I cracked out my gouache, and I hadn't used them in years. Like, some of the paint I actually had to cut out of the tube and then rehydrate because it was just a solid mass, and it did not go well. It was, I have some of my watercolor paintings on my Instagram. It's not good, you guys. I'm so spoiled by my eraser, I can't even... I love undo so hard. And watercolors even gouache is easier than watercolors because you have no forgiveness. Oh, I know you, Matador, for sure. There's a bunch of you guys I recognize all the time. I don't have a lot of commenters. So any of you guys who comment semi-regularly, I totally know you guys. I mean, I'm super famous YouTuber. No details. No details. Okay, that's my goal for the night, is to get an overall lighting scheme happening here. And not go into rendering little tiny persnickety bits, because that's definitely the type of thing that I would do. Yeah, I think a hangout would be cool. I don't know when, but someday. Life goals. I know lots of YouTubers have like Discords and stuff going. It's not really something I've looked into yet. I keep getting these tiny ideas. Like, I'll watch a lot of Twitch streamers, and I'm like, I should do Twitch streaming, and I don't have any art on my channel. I don't even have a background. I'm like, yeah, I'm like super pro at this. Do I usually draw my backgrounds in Photoshop and import into Harmony? Most of the time, like even a few years ago, I was still doing a lot just on animation paper. And then I take that drawing and then import it in Photoshop and clean it up in there. But I never do backgrounds in Harmony. Just because vectors, they don't really lend itself to 1,000 little leaves and stuff. And I don't know if you were here, but this is the kind of the style I'm going for. Which you can't do that in Toon Boom. IK in Harmony is terrible. I won't even open it for that because it's so bad. If you want IK, it's not the place for you. I did do one video on it because people kind of like, they're like, how do you use it? And I'm like, well, here's what's wrong with it, and here's how it works. So, I mean, you could reference the IK video, but honestly, I never use it. It's too awful. Let me see what the canvas size is for this. So this one, pixels, is 8,000 by 4,000. So it's not the biggest canvas in the world. I mean, but it's big enough. If I put it at 100%, this is the 100% scale there. But when you're working, you know, this big, you've got lots of room for error. Yeah, the pins are just bad. They don't pin anything. Things just wiggle around anyway. It's so annoying. I just posted the jump video, which I kind of go over a little bit how I deal with foot sticking. Hands, if I have to stick a hand, I'll just reverse rig the whole arm. I'll take the arm apart and make it so that I'll even disconnect the arm if I have to, and then I'll just animate it so that the hand is kind of where the shoulder joint would be. Nope. Detail, Tracy. Yeah, it is kind of a shame. I don't know if they're going to improve it now that 15 is coming out, because 15 is going to be a huge upgrade rigging-wise. I've got a few friends who have the beta version. They're pro riggers right now, working on all sorts of fancy stuff, and I'm going to get them. I'm going to have like a rigger roundtable. Excuse me. Once the program is live and people kind of get a little bit of a chance to see it. Am I in the right layer? Yeah. Because I'm so excited about the new modules. You don't even know the stuff that's in there, because I've used it before. It's all custom modules that used to belong to a studio I was working at. And then I had to leave that studio, and I started another one, and they didn't have any of the custom modules, and it's just like, oh, going back to vanilla is so bad. So, lots of exciting stuff coming up. I can't even tell you. It's not that it's so bad, it's just some of the modules they have in there, especially the show I'm working on now has a lot of hair, long hair. So they have a module so that if this is, say, a hair strand attached to my head, when you rotate the head, it ignores the parent rotation. So you can do this. Does that make sense? So you never have to counter animate your hair ever again. No more counter animating. It's so good. There's just a lot of like little. They have a kind of a hint about it on the website. It comes out the 16th, I want to say, of this month. So you'll start seeing some stuff on it. I don't know how fast my studio's going to get it to me. Stoked though. I've already been messaging the head of, or like my, the head of rigging, and being like, "Hey guy, when am I gonna get this? Because you know I need this." So hopefully I'll get a version of the software pretty quick. Because I'm, I guess, sort of one of the techno geeks in the studio. I help design like the rigs that we work on for the show now, and stuff like that. So hopefully I can convince them that my insight is valuable, and because I've used these modules before, they should get me one of the first copies. But I don't have it yet. I haven't got a beta copy. Not that special, because I'm doing effects right now for the studio, so it's not something I need. I want my new technology. Gimme. So I'm just throwing in like some garbage lighting here just to get a feeling about this. I already know that this is not going to work for the short film at all, because the feeling is just wrong. I think that the leaves and stuff might work. That's a little bit too iconic. Let's just... Sound effects help you paint. This kind of feels too happy to me because it's supposed to be a little bit scarier. I think I just need to watch like 700 horror shows in a row and get a better feel for creepy. And it probably doesn't help that this is the lightest part and this is the darkest part. Yeah, but I just wanted to draw trees. Once I started on this, I'm like, nope, this is what I have to do now for the next 100 years. I'm trying to think of some of the other new modules coming out. My friends have a lot more experience with them than I do, but that's the number one thing that I'm super excited about, is that hair thing. It's not even a hair thing. It has lots of different utility, but that's kind of the number one thing I could use it for today. Just because of the nature of the show I'm working on. And some of the color stuff looks good too. They claim there's going to be some sort of recoloring system, because the palette system in Harmony, it's charming, I guess we can call it. Oh, it tries so hard. I think it's one of the best and worst systems at the same time, which is a real feat in and of itself. Because the recoloring, the way that you could decide, okay, I need to change this character's coat so I can just change the palette. That's super convenient rather than recoloring. But some of the clone palette stuff, and it's just such a diva. And the way it just collects palettes, like, it's just so palette greedy. That could be better. But I was working on one show, and like 5 or 6 characters got colored with the exact same palette. Like, they just made clone palettes in one scene, and they'd import a character, and then they'd color it, and then they'd save it out as a template. Then they'd import another character and do the exact same thing. And that did not go well. We had to recolor the entire cast. And there was just they're like, well, here, just you two. I think there was 2 or 3 of us working on it. I'm not sure how many people, but it was like, you just have to recolor every single line in this character rig. Can you just do that as fast as humanly possible? Thanks. So, and the characters were already rigged. So we had to go through a fully rigged character and recolor every single line. And you know there's always that speck. Like, there's just like a single pixel speck on your character, and you can never find it. So the old palette just followed everything around. No harmony. But they claim to have some new tools. So there's hope. We're hoping. But despite its faults, it's still better than Flash. Okay, you're good enough. We're moving on. No, we're moving on. Don't get too precious this stage. I think this one could be darker, though. My Cintiq is always also, I don't know how it shows up on your monitor, but I have my Cintiq turned on so that the saturation of my colors is very high. So if I were to move this over to a normal monitor, it doesn't look as blasted out. I don't know how that translates once it gets to your monitor. Let me know if this looks stupidly saturated. Like I said, I'm just really bad at color. I just poured my drink all over myself. I'm also bad at basic tasks like drinking. So if I have the saturation turned up really high, I can distinguish between subtle colors a lot better. And I also paint a little bit too saturated because of that problem I have with color. So if I work with my saturation turned up to 1,000,000, then when I transfer it over to another monitor, it tones down, if that makes sense. Anybody else that tried to use my monitor would probably just be like, ah! And it's bad if you have to if you like open up a game or something and the colors are just screaming into your retinas. But you do what you gotta do. Alright, so we have this one back here. I am thinking maybe of multiplaning this, so I am drawing everything behind, just in case. I'm getting a little bit looser once I get to this stage. Like, there's nothing back here. I'm just going to throw in some, like, loose bushes or something, but I am putting in full pieces in behind. I'm also trying to think about if this was multiplaned, where they would overlap, because I don't want the ground plane to shift too much. Like, if this bit of rocks here and this bit of rocks here connected without this hiding it, then you'd get, like, there'd be a bad transition there. So I'm doing my best to layer it so I'm not going to have any skating of like one background like scratching over another without an overlay happening. The only thing I haven't quite figured out is the water yet, but I'm thinking if I put reflections on the layer, so this layer here had its own reflections painted on there, that I could do some sort of a simple gradient here and then have the reflections kind of handle that motion, but we're going to have to test that. That's something to test. I blatantly refuse to switch to 3D under any circumstances. I'll just make 2D work so much harder. And trees never look as good in 3D. They always kind of have weird little uh, cages of leaves and stuff. Unless you're looking at like full-fledged feature film, they always have beautiful trees. But I don't think that's a weekend project I can pick up. I'm just going to learn how to do 3D trees. I have thought about doing some sort of like a SketchUp model or something of the house, though. So that if I had to do multiple views, I could kind of cheat that perspective a little bit. But I'm not sure. I might not do the exterior. I don't think I'm going to need a ton of exterior views, but I want to get into this little place here. And I think at that point, I might do a little model of the inside of the house. I don't know how many people use SketchUp. It's pretty cute. It's not too hard. The navigation is garbage. Like, it's so hard to navigate around. But it's pretty easy to learn how to build simple sets. If you want to have like a perspective friend. Now I'm back to flats. Meow. Oh, me from the past. Why didn't you do this? That's another thing that crossed my mind. If I have to do an entire short film and I'm going to get like legit this crazy about every background, because I feel like I will, because I have no sense of scale, I might reach out to people to do flats in exchange for education. So if anybody's interested in that sort of thing, keep an eye out. It won't be till after Christmas, but I think that's worth my time to not have to do this. I had an apprentice a few years ago for special effects. It was so fun to make him do everything I didn't want to do. It was like my favorite thing. He was great, though. He's a really good animator. And now he's left the nest, and he's his very own show to work on. So proud. That's the downside to working from home, I think, is like there's no opportunity to take on an apprentice in the studio, which was really fun to do. I think that's kind of how I ended up making this channel as well. Like, I was missing my baby animators. So I was like, I'll just reach all the baby animators I can find on the internet. Ah, that's not what I wanted to do. I controlled when I shouldn't have. Okay. Let's try that again. No, it isn't. What did I do? Yay. Okay, that was way harder than it needed to be. You copy and paste every day. Everyone's so quiet tonight. If you guys have questions, don't be shy. I'm really nice, I promise. Why are you gray? Oh, I neglected you, Leaf. Sleep. Started looking into the Twitch kind of affiliates program or whatever it is they call it. And apparently to become like a real life Twitch streamer, you have to stream like 3 times a week and up to so many hours and stuff. So I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. I'll just say casual Twitch. How many people are watching on Twitch versus YouTube? So I was surprised to see that YouTube got a bunch of views the next day on the first video I did. The second one was taken down because I was listening to music. And I didn't think they'd take it down if I didn't monetize it or anything, but apparently they're like really opposed to just music in general. You could barely hear it. It was super duper low. Oh, YouTube. Is that too much? Getting really iconic again. I haven't painted trees in a while. I've been doing a lot of portraits, which is a lot more, like things are more precise. Because, I mean, a face, you don't have a lot of leeway with a face when you compare it to a tree. So I'm gonna, I really gotta fight the preciousness on this. I love the song. I'm trying not to burst into song. That's another thing. Working from home, you get really comfortable with the fact that you're alone all the time. Because my son goes to daycare and my husband sleeps all day because he's a night shifter. Like, he works all night. So it's just me here by myself in my pajamas most of the time. And you can sing so loud. So if a song comes on in the mall or something, or at the when I'm out getting groceries, I'm just like bust out and I'm like, I am not a good singer. This is an affront to all involved. I'm so sorry, world. I should stick to the drawing thing. I do like working in my pajamas. And I also live about 45 minutes away from the studio I'm working at right now in good traffic. So when I was going into the studio, I'd have to leave at 6 a.m. to get there ahead of all the traffic. So I don't miss that either. I did like being the first one in the studio, though. There'd be one guy, actually, that would get in before me. Because I'd usually get in by about 7 o'clock. Because I'd stop and get a coffee and stuff. So I get in at 7. There'd be one guy there already because he got in like super early. So by the time most of the animators rolled in at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, because the hours there are pretty loose as long as you put in your time. Most studios are. So by the time they rolled in, I was on my like I would after drinking like a half a liter or like a full liter of coffee, and they just like drudge in and I'd be singing and like so chipper. I'd be like, "Hey guys, good morning! Like I can't believe you're finally here. Let's talk about all the things that I've been thinking about while you haven't been here yet." They just be like, "Oh my god, Tracy, they need to send you home." And then mysteriously, I didn't need to go in anymore. Is it because I'm a morning person? I don't know if I'm a morning person or if I'm just a not sleeper type person. Any other insomniacs in the house? I'm the worst sleeper ever. If I could cure sleep, I get so much done. It'd be great. It's my goal in life to develop a potion or something so that I never have to sleep and waste my time again. That's good enough. Not being precious. I'm so proud of myself. See, now the clash just started, so I'm like, don't sing to them, don't run. I don't have enough viewers to sing on camera. And back to flats. See, the thing is, when you're drawing tree trunk, like I could have just drawn gray sticks, and then I didn't even need to draw line art for a tree trunk, and I would have saved myself so much time. So future me, I'm gonna write that down. You know, like future me, when you're drawing tree trunks, use a gray brush. Don't line that. And my grass blades as well, like drawing little grass in your rough line art when you're not gonna keep the line. It's such a waste of time. There's a learning curve. I've never done layout in a studio. I've done freelance layout a little bit. So I'm not sure what the pace is of layout. That's something I'm going to ask some of my layout friends soon. I'm going to use this whole short film adventure to kind of be a fact-finding mission. So I'm doing... Right now my plan is, like, I've started doing character development for the main characters. And I'm doing these rough backgrounds. This one's kind of becoming more than a rough. But I'm just going to do a couple rough layouts of the most, like, the key scenes and kind of play around with the color scheme and stuff. And then I'm going to start working on the storyboards because I just need, like, a rough idea of where the character's going. And then once I have boards, I could actually get into the real background design. And when that happens, I'm going to call up... I have a few friends that are in the layout department. And I'll see if they'll come on and talk about being a layout artist in the studio. Because there's lots of stuff, even though I work in the same studio and I might work next to them, there's a lot of, like, detail stuff I don't know, like how many layouts they're expected to do a day. Something that's never occurred to me. And I imagine it varies a lot from episode, like varies from show to show. But I don't know. Because I've always been a little bit scared to apply for layout jobs. Like, I feel like I'm competent enough in drawing a background. I don't know if I could keep pace with some of these guys. If I was expecting to draw 8 layouts a day, that seems like a lot to me. I guess it depends on the show. So, fact-finding missions. That's better. So what's everyone working on? You're so quiet tonight. No questions, aside from IK, which is, it's just bad. Bye, who's Robinson? See you. Yeah, I get it. It's like the only time I could find. As my schedule changes, hopefully I could switch up the days or do an extra day in the middle of the week or later in the week. I'm just a bit slammed. Well, I appreciate it. Even half a stream is more than no stream, right? Ta-da. My drink is gone. It's a holiday here in Canada, so I'm drinking my husband's cider, which is very sweet. Bye. So now someone has to pick up the chat Slack. I think it's working for... Okay, so it looks like everybody's watching on YouTube. Is that true? I'm gonna go peek and see what's going on. I'm not sure what to do with Twitch. Yeah, everyone's on YouTube. Twitch is so new and scary. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are there. It's like a whole new ball game. Twitch, YouTube's easy because I can just put the video up and then run away and hide and hope that somebody watches it, and then base my self-esteem on the number of views. Live stuff's a little bit more intimidating. Oh, that's supposed to be green. Merp. And no one's the wiser. Feels okay. Maybe I'll muck around with it once I have everything filled in. This is why I'm so bad at traditional. I'm so spoiled by digital. You have so much, like, if you don't have to think as much in the first place, you can just kind of block stuff out, and as long as your lighting is working, you can always muck around a lot with your colors later. Traditional is not as forgiving that way. You can't just color. I guess you could color grade it once you're finished in, like, you could fix it in post. But then it's not really traditional anymore, is it? Oh, I'm doing it again. Starting to get into the precious stuff. Stop it. It's just gonna be me yelling at myself the whole time, I guess. Stop being precious. That's ugly. Yeah. Oh, and that's supposed to be like a lot. Good enough. Next. Oh, this background. Well, I should probably get rid of the gray. That's smart. I don't know why I'm working on a gray here. But like I said, I don't know what I'm doing with this river at all. Make it kind of murky looking. At least it's not gray. That's gonna mess me up. This part feels really open though, so maybe I'll pretend that there's light coming in this way a little bit. The moral of the story is, do thumbnails of your lighting. Or else you end up with a mess of guesses. But I was so in the brush. I'm like, oh, I want to paint this so bad. But you don't have a plan. Okay. And this is starting to feel empty back here now that I can see it. That's good. It's good that I can see the bad. I don't think it's bad to see the bad. I think it's bad not to see the bad. And then you think you're doing great, and then all of a sudden you can see it, and you're just like, ugh! This whole time I've been lying to myself and others. Too dark. Here's another episode of Should Have Separated, because that wasn't even line art. That's literally, I just drew in some flat tree shapes, and I didn't do it on a separate layer. I feel like this is just a big learning episode. There we go. We'll blue that out. Atmosphere. I know what I'm doing. Might be too blue, but go big or go home, right? And the sun is on this side, so we'll just do that. And no one's the wiser. Except that one, like, blazing section of sky right here. Is that the only place where you can see sky at all? Cool, 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 cool. Maybe I'll just make this rock bigger. Just add more rocks. Or I could add more trees behind, I guess. So I want this to be super foresty. I don't know how much of it, again. Okay, so maybe once I get this all roughed in, I'll layer it into Harmony and figure out if I'm going to multiplane it, what I'm actually going to see. Because I shouldn't paint all of this stuff if I'm never going to see it. That makes sense to me. Future me will thank me if I do that. So I'll just avoid anything I think is going to be invisible. And then if I have to paint in those details later, that's something we can future me's problem. So like I said when the stream started, I'm not sure if anybody was here for that. This whole thing is the wrong... This whole house doesn't feel right for the short film that it's going to be used in. Hang on, I have a text. I wouldn't normally check, but... Oh, no, it's not important. My mommy's sick, so I have to check my texts. But it's not an important text. So the whole style of this area is not, like, spooky enough. I wanted this to be sort of an intimidating character. The design of it, he's, like... I don't have the design really finished yet, but I definitely know I want to go some sort of a demon, like a demon sorcerer sort of a guy. And here he's living in this, like, cute little cottage. Or maybe he should live in a cute little cottage. And that's why she goes there. It's like a Hansel and Gretel situation. That's an excuse to just use the art I've already made. Yes, future me will like that plan. But I figure if I keep this house separate enough, then it'd be really easy to just replace the house itself if I design something a little bit more appropriate for what I was thinking in my head. I was also, like, I should have done thumbnails. I'm really kicking myself now. I guess I still could. Because right now the brightest place is going to be, like, these trees in the foreground are quite dark and this part is really light. But if this was the dark part and this was the light part, that could be cool. Let's just slap some stuff in there. Let's be brave. Hi, Dimensional Whale. I'm gonna be brave now. And bring this dark, 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 dark. And then my house would have to be So let's just slap some lights in here. Because it can't be totally dark or else you won't really see the silhouette of the house. But I can light it up a bit if I... Or at least just this one window, because that's kind of the hero window. That doesn't look the worst. It definitely, like, it has to be daytime, because this is looking like nighttime now. There's not enough stuff that's telling me it's daytime. I think that's something I can put on my study list, is how I can get, like, the deep dark forest, but still have it look like it's daytime. This has really lost its saturation as I've been mucking around with it, too. So if you learn nothing, learn that you should make a plan. So maybe not quite that dark, because it's going to be... Oh, I can probably get away with just having lots of trees around it. So it's sort of in the dark woods. I did want to have a waterfall just as an excuse to paint or to animate a waterfall, but I could have that in a different part of the story. So I can just like slap out this waterfall. I can keep the pond though. Or maybe end the pond here. And then put some ground here. Should have made a plan. So much planless regret. Bring everything down. And then maybe put more exaggerated highlights on the top to say that there's bright light, but it's off screen. That's not the worst thing. Where is that one? It's in there. Alright, I'm gonna take a quick, like, 2-minute pee break and I'll be right back. That'll teach me to drink all that coffee. Oh, it's so much better. I was like painting faster. It was like, ooh, okay, not gonna make it till like 11 o'clock. That's not happening. Everyone's super quiet tonight. Does no one have any questions at all? I don't mind painting leaves all night if you guys are digging it. Wow, 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 wow. I feel like this side is really naked. Like I should put in another overlay. Maybe I'll slap some trees in real quick. Portal effects. There's so many kinds of portals. Do you have kind of a reference that you're going by? Because I've done portals and I've done whirlpools and I've done... There's so many. I did this one portal in Toon Boom and I had a really high maintenance director and he had me keep shifting it, but it was like a series of effects, like in a tunnel, kind of multiplane to get the effect, and it was so hard to move around. So I don't recommend that if you have a high maintenance director. But if you have something a little bit more specific in mind, I can definitely try and bang something out for you. Because with a really simple portal, I mean, you could just use, just have a circle. Oh, I should save every now and again. And then you could do a series of different effects going around. Like, you could just animate some swirls going around like this. And then just use your circle as a cutter. Like, that's the simplest kind of one. That's why you gotta get your studio to pay for it. Gotta get a job in a studio and convince them to buy your Harmony licensing for you. Well, even if it's a 3/4 view, you could do exactly what I just did and then just like multiplane it a little bit and then use the circle as a cutter. So, because it really, like, there's so many different kinds. I have so many layers in here now. So let's just add a white in here. So even if you had a circle this way, if you animated the effects like this, so you could do all kinds of swirly stuff. You could even do something fairly simple and then rotate it, or have like each layer. So on one layer, you could have something like this that you rotate around a center point. And then on the next layer, you do one in here and rotate around center point, and just do a bunch of stuff like that. And then you could just use your quad map to get this perspective. So you just like quad map your circle like this, and then your stuff is going to go around like that in perspective. My top 3 would take hours. That's the thing about effects. Sometimes they take, like, depending on what you want to do, they could take just stupid amounts of time. I could do a pretty simple one, and that won't take hours. I'm going to use... I'll read your question because nobody who's looking at this tomorrow can read the chat. It says, do you like Storyboard or Harmony Workflow? Storyboard Pro to Harmony Workflow, or do you just use your storyboards in Harmony, which can easily be done? Well, I don't have Storyboard Pro, so at this point I feel like I'm just going to do my boards in Harmony in chunks. So I'll do like Act 1 and Act 2 and Act 3. But I really like Storyboard Pro. It's a great program if you can get somebody else to pay for it, because I don't like to spend money on anything. And the workflow, like the way that you can just import things right, like you can tell it to create scenes and it'll just create all your scene folders for you. That's a super good mechanic. It's a great workflow to have in a studio if you have all the money in the world. So we're just gonna make a swish. I just don't have all the money in the world, so. Let's see, so I'm gonna do kind of like a super cheapy effect. Does it work with the newer versions? The old version of Storyboard Pro? See, I'm not a storyboarder. It's kind of like if I had to choose my weakest weakness, it would be storyboarding. Just because I feel like that's such an art to itself. So, and in order to get really good at storyboarding, you kind of have to commit to storyboarding specifically. And I have so many interests, that's not happening. So now I'm just going to create some little swishies. Yeah, so we're 14. That's sweet. It's great if you have it. I haven't actually looked at the pricing of Storyboard Pro. I don't feel like I'm going to make $1 million on my short film, so I don't want to spend a ton of money making it. So I'm going to do a real, like, jacked up version of this so it doesn't take forever. Sweet. That's good to know. I think I have a buddy who has the old version of Storyboard Pro. I'm wondering if he could transfer the license to me. Maybe I could give him a couple bucks. Because I don't think he uses it anymore. So here I'm just making a little like swish. You could hand animate these swishes so they're super specific. You could make fire swishes. You could do like any number, like a million different things. This is just the simplest. Put you on top. And so here is the swishies. And yep. I mean, if you're super cheap, you could even create a new version, like pay special. So you've got an independent one. And then you can just scale it and flip it. So now you've got a bunch of different swishies. So it's actually rotating in the opposite direction. And, you know, throw on glows or blurs or whatever you want. And make this smaller. Yeah, the board artists I know, they have such a good sense of story. And while I really enjoy writing a lot, I don't think I'm very good at it. Like, I've written some very bad novels that don't really work. But it's definitely, I know it's a hobby. It's not something I'm really going to spend the time to get super good at. So you could use your cutter as a backdrop for your stuff like this. and then add a quad map to the whole shot. So this would be like the cheapest of the cheap for portals, and you could layer it as much as you want. You could throw blurs on it. So, and check your render. And then throw a quad map. So this would be the cheapest of the cheap. So now, once you slap the quad map in there, it's rotating on an angle in perspective without any actual work. 94. And I mean, if you're going for cheap anyway, you just slap enough like compositing on something, it starts to look not too bad. Why is that so hard-edged? That's too much. Yeah. So I'm just slapping a few glows on there, and you render it out. Yeah, there you go, like 5-minute portal. So this is with absolutely no animation on these things. They're just rotating around. And it's not the worst thing in the world. But animating, doing some classical effects in on these swooshes to get them looking nicer is definitely going to give you some cool stuff. You could throw in... let's see if I can get it working real quick. What's the name of it? The turbulent noise. Let me see if I can remember how to use this. It's been a while. Dude. I have no display. Dude. There we go. So this thing, you're going to have to get into the tooltips to get it working well. But it's basically, if you have to do like a caustic thing, something like an underwater lighting, then this is where you're going to want to go. And it's got all sorts of different shapes that you can mess around with. So subscaling here, this is starting to look a little bit... this will give you a good water. Oh, that's too much. Yeah, so this like fractional blah blah blah. And you can scale it up like this. And then, like, this is something I could make a whole episode on probably. But this is what I use for if I have to do underwater lighting. Too many. I've never been asked if I was certified in Toon Boom. It's just never come up. If, like, it's worth learning how to do it, but I don't think that, like, having a certificate is going to help you at all. So here, if I play with the evolution, you can see this is starting to change. This you can change over time. So I'm going to set the evolution on this frame. And over here on 94. And I'm just going to animate the evolution on this. And then I could put that into my cutter as well. Let's see if this doesn't work. I know some versions don't like using this as like cutting this, and some do. I've had problems with it in the past. There we go. It's working. And transparency, so you just bring it down a little bit. And I don't think the quad map, it'll affect it. I think in order to use the quad map, oh, it's actually doing all right. It's trying its best here to use that quad map. Now if you render it out, it has magic effects. You're Rumble certified. Honestly, if you need more than what I gave you guys on that rigging tutorial series, that's... I don't even know what else I could put in that series. I tried to cover absolutely all the rigging bases. And I mean, animating is a different thing. It has nothing to do with understanding the software. Well, it has something to do with it. Obviously, you can't animate if you don't know the software, but... So now I've turned off all my glow effects on my questionable spin, but you can see that you can get some cool looking watery texture stuff by using the turbulent noise. Let me scale that up. So that's a great one if you want just like super cheap cool effects. Turbulent noise will usually get you something cool. Sometimes, depending on what you're trying to connect to it, like I don't think you can slap a glow on that. But you could render it out and then use it as a mask if you're getting real desperate to do something cool. Like I've done this, I'll do this if, like I said, I need water lighting. So here you can, whatever your water perspective is, you can find that. Like if this is your perspective, and then as you animate it along, it does that sort of watery looking stuff. So you could render that out and then use it as a mask. The timing tutorial. Timing is honestly something that takes years of just practicing and looking at animation, because it's one of those things like your eyes grows as you do stuff. And watching other people's animation is a really good way to do it. And timing things. I find most animators either time their stuff too slow or they time their stuff too fast. There's not many animators who are all over the place. So if you can pinpoint which one you are you like a wobbly arm person who's like, okay, you're not, like you need to calm down and be a little bit more precise because you're going too fast. Or you're the type of person where everything's going like, and just like constantly moving but at a slow underwatery pace. It tends to be one or the other, and you have to kind of fight your natural instincts. Wee. Hopefully some of this is giving you good portal ideas. Wee. I guess I'm just gonna like quickly Google portal and see what Google has to say. Too fast. Sorry. Let me just look. I'm getting a lot of Portal the game. So what I do is I actually look up some portals. Like this is just a fire texture around a circle. Like that's a great portal. All you'd have to do is like a 5-frame fire cycle in a circle. Or you could even do a half circle or a quarter circle and then just like flip it. That's a perfectly good portal. Like this could just be like a rotating, yeah, it's just a rotating noise fractal. I think I'll do an episode on this turbulent noise thing because it's not something I could Like I'd have to go review, because I could slop around in here and kind of get the effect I'm looking for, but in order for me to explain it really usefully, I have to sit down and review what each one is so I could explain it. So I'll put that on the list to kind of explain. But this thing here is literally just some rotating swishes and a quad map. And I have quad map stuff in there. But it's literally just like circles. It's going around in circles. I've seen some cool portal effects. Kind of like the way you do a fire. The ones that they did in Ever After High. I didn't work on the first season of Ever After High. The guy who did the effects in there, he was super good. Stuff was super cool, and he did this great effect where he, just like you do your smoke effect, coming out like this. I'll do just like a super fast cycle and put it on. So you got your smoke effect, but then you come out in a circle with your smoke effect. So I'm just going to do a quarter circle, and then I'll flip it. But I'm just using the same technique I did with the smoke one. If you want to kind of watch it a little bit slower, how I'm going about making the effect. What's as fun as watching me paint leaves? Watching me draw squiggles. Yeah, this would get you a pretty portally looking portal. And you could fill it in a lot more. It's like you don't need to have all these big gaps and stuff. It really just depends on how much time you want to spend on this portal. Like if this is your hero shot, spend 2 or 3 days making this effect. Don't just slap something together like this. Because there's been certain special effects. Like I had to have an entire room fill with smoke, and it was just kind of like swishing around like this, like gradually getting bigger, and it took me 5 days to do it. So if you want to do something very cool, it's going to take a long time. The first time, and especially if you're not really experienced, my first flag wave I ever did took me like a week. It probably took me like 8 or 10 hours of class time to do my first flag wave. And now I could do a flag wave in about 12 minutes is my best time for a flag wave. Alright, so I'm just going to copy and paste and flip this instead of animating all the directions. But obviously if you animate them all separately, they're gonna look cooler. So now you've got this like smoke effect coming out from the center. Stop, I said. And we can bring back our guy to cut it. Let's make it bigger. Thanks. Now when you slap a quad map on it, it'll still do what you need it to do in 3 dimensions. So that's, I think, a lot of people, especially people coming out of traditional, they overthink things, and they try and animate something in perspective. But if it's a circle and it's flat, you could animate a circle and then just like move it. So now it's got, and you could, I mean, you could layer this stuff too. So like slap all the stuff on there. We want that and we want this. I want all the effects. We'll just put them all on the same time, whatever. This is my glow. I'll get that one. So I'm just throwing a collection of blurs and glows on here. Nothing nothing too crazy. Now when we render it. So if you need something that looks cheap and very complex, you could also just keep layering super easy stuff until it looks complex. Like I put circles rotating on top of squares on top of, like eventually it'll look complex. Hi Tarwai. We're having Q&A. So there you go. You got a pretty cheap looking effect there. And you should, this probably shouldn't be super sharp, this circle. You could animate the circle just wobbling. That's a good cheap way to make this look fancier. You could also slap an envelope deformer on there. Just layer the guts out of it. So let's throw an envelope deformer on our circle. Oh, the quad map might actually make this explode. I don't know if I should put this on a quad mapped. It's fine. It's fine. If I disappear, it's because I crashed because I was layering too much stuff. So now our circle's wobbling. Let's slap some deformer on there. Oh, deformers. In my day, we didn't have deformers. Oh, I've got this on all keyframes mode. I'm dumb. Yep. Trade secret. I'm so excited. I already went on my Toon Boom 15 rant. I've got big plans for when that comes out to grab some of my friends who work as riggers and go over some of the new modules and stuff with everybody and talk about what the features mean in a meaningful way. Because they really know the ins and outs of it a lot better than I do, because they have access to the betas already. So jealous. But yeah, there are some big changes happening to the rigging stuff, getting new modules and stuff that I'm so excited about. It's gonna be super good, and I'm excited to see what they actually do with the palettes. But I'm not. It's one of those things like you've lied to me before too, boob. I don't know if I trust you anymore with my heart. All right, so let's see if this will render without exploding. Oh yeah, it will. We only need up to frame 60. Oh, I didn't put a blur on it. I don't want you to be super... I want you to be a bit blurry. Okay. And more glow. Let's slap a glow in the back there. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The new ID thing, like that sounds so promising, right? But what if they're lying? I've had to recolor an entire series before because one of the baby riggers didn't know that though the palette thing had been explained, like 4 or 5 characters got colored with the same clone palette. It was ugly. If you're not doing high-end rigged stuff, you don't need to upgrade right away. Like, I'm working in a studio that's like a 3D, 2D hybrid with some of the most complex rigs on the go, and this is going to make our lives easier. But if you're just animating like fun at-home stuff, like, I don't feel like your life will be changed the way that a studio's will at all. Stop at 60. I don't need all the frames that ever happened. Yeah, that's pretty cheap. Well, that take half hour, 20 minutes. That's a not too shabby looking portal. I ran out of cider. It's a holiday in Canada. All the beer stores are closed. Had stereoscopic features? I didn't even know it did. I worked in Digital Pro for a long time. Jeez, 3 years in the studio for sure. Nope. So there's my low budget portal effect. And the secret is just glows and blurs. And a quad map. You can never have too many quad maps. Yeah, there's some good stuff for in 15 for, but like I said, if you're not doing really complex rigs, like even the blue rig, if you've downloaded that and played with that, that's not a complex rig at all. It's a super simple one. Like it has like, it has no bells and whistles at all. I think it has like 3 deformers. That's not a fancy one. I can't show you any of the rigs that I work on in the studio. When I do the ones for my short film, though, I'll definitely... I don't think I'll share the rigs, but I will show you the process of rigging them. I'm a little bit precious over those rigs. Even though they don't exist yet. Any more Toon Boom related questions? I'm tempted to just animate the smoke now. Once I get started on something, I'm just like, oh, I should just do that for 4 hours. But I don't need a smoke effect. Or do I? No, I don't. I don't. You crashed? Oh, it's so sad. I just bought a new computer at the beginning of this year, so I'm super spoiled. I hate deformer mouths. They're the worst. Ugh, they're so gross. Just draw the mouths, people. See, I got into animation because I love to draw. That's why I became an animator. Because when I was 5 years old, I'm like, I want to be an animator like Disney. Yeah. And then as soon as I was like 16 or 17, they're like, we're closing the 2D studios forever, ever, ever. I was like, no, that's my literal dream. A complex rig, it's just like like Ever After High has the most complex rigs I've ever used because they have a bunch of custom made scripts and custom made modules. They have textures that are run through cutters, that are run through deformers, to get everything working. So if you just watch that, I think you can post links there. I don't think I've turned it off. Haven't had need to. So I'm just gonna pop open Ever After High because these have the most complex rigs. So if your rig looks something like this, You have a complex one. Oh, it's blocked. I don't even know how to... Is that on the YouTube chat? Because I'm using kind of a chat conforming, so all my chats come into one third-party app. I can open up YouTube and see if I can adjust my live stream settings. I don't actually know what I'm doing. I don't know if that comes across. Yeah, the designs in this show are insane. The show is absolutely gorgeous. And it's actually a good show. It's funny. Like, the characters are fun. I like it. I don't know if it shows, but I'm not a fashionista. But this was one of the most fun shows I've ever worked on. And the effects were all classically animated. I used almost no particle effects or anything in this show. Oh, there we have a link. What does that link go? I'm opening another window just in case it's horrifying and scary. How do I watch it? Oh, I see. I see what you did there. Oh, I messed it up. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, it's Rick and Morty. I haven't worked on Rick and Morty, but I did do a test for Rick and Morty. So I got to see their rigs. Those are not complex rigs either. But these are the most complex I've ever seen. Like, all the patterns and textures and stuff in their clothes and their tights and everywhere. Yeah, so unless you're looking at something like that, you're fine. You two just started playing the Foo Fighters. Oh, I'm so old. It's all drawn. It's not all drawn, but the rigs are kept very, very simple so that redrawing is super easy. One show I worked on, another that has simple rigs like that is this one. So this show had very simple rigs because it was so much redrawing. So they had like all these like super cool arms and stuff. And this was before Deformers too when this started. So a lot of this stuff just had to be done. But yeah, this is a great one to look at if you're looking for like simple style rigs, simple animation. I can't remember the name of the designer. I follow him on all the social media. I think it's Frank something. So good. This stuff is gold. Oh yeah, love that stuff. So those are not complex rigs. The pony movie, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I saw the trailer and I'm kind of excited. I'm not a pony person. Like, I'm not one of these MLP fanboys, but I gotta say that one looks good. It looks super cool. Yeah, I'm so bad at designing simple characters. It's just not in my DNA. I don't know. I do an overly complex character, and then I try and refine it down to simpler. Like, even the stuff I was doing last time. Do I have my fairies here? So this is like my maximum simplicity. This is as simple as I get. And that's because I'm basically thinking of the guy who designed Sidekick and I'm trying to draw like him. Yeah, I do more realistic stuff most of the time. I've been really like I'll really take the time to try and simple my stuff down, and I feel like I'm starting to get there. But it's a whole like simple is hard. People really don't give it enough credit. Doing simple stuff is not easy at all. I love doing conflict, and I kind of like I said, I grew up watching Disney stuff, so their designs are relatively complex if you compare it to a lot of the like just television style animation. When I work in the design department, I've done it a few times, but I'm a production designer. I'm not like a character designer. So I'll get the character that's been designed by somebody else, and I'll do all the technical rotations and stuff, or they'll give me props to do things like that. But I'm not a character designer. I can't draw spaghetti arms. It's so hard. I I constantly fight with myself. Like even this background, I'm like, oh, I should do a short film, so let me try and design the background style. And I'm like, well, I need fully rendered trees with 1,000 leaves and like 1,000,000 bushes and flowers. And I need to go out and design 700 different flowers so that it's not too samey all the time. And then I watch, my son is 2.5, so I watch a lot of like Dora the Explorer and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, I'm complicating my backgrounds a lot. But it's, I mean, go big or go home, right? That's one way to look at it. Oh, the Samurai Jack backgrounds are so good. That's another show that's so simple, yet so complex. God, Gendy's a genius. Oh, I haven't seen the new one at all. I'm way behind on my Samurai Jack. These look like new ones. I've seen some of the stuff and it looks cut out, and I was a little bit sad. Like, but I do want to see the new one for sure. Oh, it's so pretty. Oh, I think, yeah, their palettes are so planned out. I don't want your tattoos, people. These are just samurai backgrounds. Learn to Google, Tracy. Ugh, so pretty. But they're so simple. Like, this is just a brush texture. Like, there's just little stars. Oh, it's so perfect. Look how perfect it is. This is what I want to do when I grow up. It's like Mary Blair, but like samurai Mary Blair. See, look how like simple that is. Maybe I should do some Samurai Jack studies and learn how to simplify. Phone a friend. It's so good. This is what I want to be able to paint when I grow up. Like, for me, it's easier to do so much rendering into, like, realism or, like, you know, like, it's so hard to stylize stuff like this. It's so pretty. Yeah, everyone can just abandon me to go look at Samurai Jack. Because now I hate this because I'm like, oh, it's not pretty and stylized like that. Why do I make things so complicated? That's one of the reasons I've never done a short before, or why I haven't gone into illustration, because as soon as I start feeling confident about myself, I go look at something like that, and then I'm like, well, I gotta go study for another 4 years. I guess I'll do something in my 40s. I do need to come up with a little bit of a simpler style, I think, if I'm gonna do hundreds of these backgrounds. I don't think I can do hundreds of them. Bitmap or vector? I'd say they might be a combination of both. Like they might do their flats in Illustrator and then import it into Photoshop and then do the brush strokes over it, but I don't know. I think some of the original ones were gouache or something, like that old-timey stuff. I never delete my work. I've kept like everything I've ever done. I literally have a sketchbook from when I was like 6 years old in a box. I have improved a little bit. Because if you keep it, then you can look back at your stuff and be like, okay, you've gotten a little better. Like, it's incremental. I think part of my problem is I've been a perfectionist. So I spent a lot of time studying anatomy and perspective and like the real hard rules. And if you want to do stuff that's stylized, you have to break the rules. And it's hard to go back. Once you know the proper anatomy of a character, when you're drawing a character, you keep wanting to fix it. But you're not actually fixing it. You're making it worse. So there's definitely a line. But I'm okay not being a designer. Like, there's people who want to be character designers. Like, that's their dream come true. But I'm totally fine. I love effects design because it is very logical. If you have to plan like a water effect, like physics has to come into play. So it kind of gives you the best of both worlds there. And Zebtoons, hey, you're famous, yeah. See, guys, I told you I was super famous. Zebtoons knows who I am. Yeah, stuff gets pixelated, so you just make it huge. I figure if I have to zoom way in on this little porch, I'll just have her fly like over a branch or something and cut and have a higher resolution version. Fingers are not squares or rectangles. Fingers, I've done a lot of Mit-Call studies, which I think has really helped my hand drawing, simplified hand drawing. But when I'm animating, like the show I showed you, Sidekick, when I was animating on that, 100% of the time, my animation supervisor would be like, Tracy, your hands are too complex. Because the hands on Sidekick are so simple, like achingly simple. Like, here's your thumb, and then, but like thinner. I can't even do it. Like, this is a hand on that show. And it would pain me physically. I had to write on a note and paste on the top of my computer, simplify your hands. And after every single scene I'd animated or I'd done my keys for, I had to redo all the hands simpler and then send it to my supervisor. Huge. No politics. Just gets everybody angry and sad. Aw, thanks, Zebtudes. I try to be helpful. Yeah, it was so hard. They had a lot of reference hands. It was difficult, though. I think not enough credit goes to people who draw simple stuff like that. It's so good. Like, I love it so much. And then I try and do it myself, and I'm like, Tracy, you're a failure. Everything is wrong. This is bad. Fix it, fix it, fix it. And then my character is just dead inside because I've fixed all the cool out of it. That's why animation is done in teams. It's good to have a mix because, like, a lot of the guys I know who are just tremendously good character designers, they do really amazing stuff like that. If they needed to do something like a complete boat, like a pirate ship in perspective rotating, that's just never going to happen. Their perspective is not up to snuff. They're designers, they're not draftsmen. Yeah, simplifying the shape. You and I are on the same page here, man. It's just I'm not a designer. I'm a draftsman. Yeah, I think I would need some substances to allow me to be some spontaneous. I'm such a high stress, high anxiety person. Spontaneous doesn't happen to me. If I have to go to the post office 2 days from now, I'm like, oh, my whole routine is off. I have to reschedule my entire week. Let me get the planner out. Where's my spreadsheet? But that's why we work in teams. If they need their stuff rotated, boy howdy, I can perspective the guts out of something. Maybe I could just keep adding trees and just have like an unlimited multi-planed background. Like, I wonder how far you could actually multi-plane something. And zoom it. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I might actually just flatten this out and let me save as a new version. Okay. This is going to be kind of boring to watch, but I'm going to bring this into Harmony and see what it looks like multi-planed. Yeah, we'll just flatten all that. That's fine. All right, so let's try hauling this into Harmony. That's not what OCD means. Doctor's a liar. OCD is not particular. I think that's a huge misunderstanding with the general community. Yeah. All right, let's see if I can remember where I put this. Shouldn't show you my terrible filing system. I'm hiding that from you. You'll see on my non-disclosure stuff too. Backgrounds. Okay, let's see if we can bring this in on separate layers. Create layers, separate layers. Separate layers. Oh, did you just give them to me like side by side, Toon Boom? Cool. Love when you do that. That's exactly not what I need. Come here. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I am way too cheap for a Mac. You get no additional benefits for a Mac when you're an animator. If I was an editor, I could arguably say it's worth the double budget, but not as a production animator at all. There's no reason to have a Mac. And with a PC, when my computer starts getting a little bit slow, I could take out the video card and shove in a new video card, and I could throw the RAM away and just shove in new RAM. So my old computer was just a whole lot of duct tape and new parts that I got on the cheap, and it lasted me like a million years. So let's boop, 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 boop. These are all like vertically stretched. All right. Yeah, sorry if I sounded angry. I'm just really cheap. I don't like spending money on anything. My husband hates it. My husband's like, okay, you need to spend money on a winter coat. We live in Canada. It gets down to like minus 40. And I'm like, but I have like 4 sweaters. I could just wrap those around me. It's fine. And he's like, no, really. You need a coat. Like, cool, I'll just go get a Walmart coat. He's like, no, that's made of like newspaper. You need a real coat, Tracy. I think artists can make money with animated webisodes. You can make some money, for sure. I just don't know if you could make a living wage on it. That would be difficult to do nowadays. Or stop motion. Like there's some. I think you'd have to mix it up with other stuff. Like Simon the Cat. Is that what his name is? He started with just like illustration and stuff, and he moved into animation. So he's got a whole collection of things that he can bank on. So I want this one, the maintain size tool. So now when I pull it forward, it's not going to muck up the scale. It's going to maintain its size. Huzzah. Yeah. Yeah, I think like if you're trying to make a series, like you should not try and bank on the hopes that it would get picked up. If you're going to try and get a series picked up by somebody, it's better to spend a lot of time on a pitch pack and then just throw it at people and see how it works, and then if that doesn't work, make another pitch pack, because tons of studios, even just like small studios, take pitch packs and they're willing to take your stuff on if it's decent and bring it to the next level. So it would be, if you're going for a whole series, that'd be the way I went. I think I'd pitch it to studios, but I'm not precious about my stuff. So I don't care if a studio takes my stuff and just like makes it completely different than what I wanted in the first place. All right, so let's put a camera in here. Let's see how this works. It's been so long since I animated a camera. Usually they do it for me. Alright, this one has to be bigger. Everything's squat. It's really annoying. Why are you so squat? So that gives us lots of space once we do that. Let me just drag our camera through. Doot doot. There you go, shift. Hold your shift. Yeah, so it's like enchanted as if. Okay, you can see quite a bit back here. That's good to know. Jade Animations. I think there are some animation channels that, like, if you have a quick turnaround, if you could come up with something that, like a character that you use all the time that you can reuse easily, and simple sets, just like even just like a plain white background and stuff. Thanks, Matador. But if you could make yourself a real assembly line style animation system, I think you could get enough content out to do decently. It's hard to say. Yeah, so I definitely need more back on that side there. This hides everything there. I really want this waterfall just because it's so, just to be stupid about it, be like, yeah, I need to include everything ever. And I'm an effects animator, so if I didn't include an unnecessary waterfall, at least one unnecessary waterfall, right? Wee. See, it's multi-planed. Amination. Yeah, so I think that's the only area that's empty. I seriously want to just keep making trees, though, so I can just, like, zoom for, like, 3 minutes. That would be dumb, right? I mean, I probably wouldn't have to do 100 unique trees. I could do 10 trees and then layer them a lot and flip them and... Well, I couldn't flip them because then my lighting wouldn't work. Damn it, 2D. Waterfall that takes a month to make. Well, because I've been working in a studio, like I've never been given a month to do an episode. Because TV is cheap, boy. You got to do that on the cheap. So I could do a waterfall in a day easily. Especially if it wasn't super close up. I mean, like the way I did the chocolate fountain, you could get away with that as the beginning of a waterfall. Yeah, it's just cutters. Cutters and cheats and lies. That's what animation is. More blur. That's what TV animation is. TV animation is super on the cheap. So now I have to open up my other one. Always save as a new version before you flatten everything. Always save before you save as a new version and flatten everything. Damn it, Tracy from the past. I'm so smart. We'll just steal that tree. We'll put a little tree right there and pretend it never happened. Yep, you didn't see a thing. So now all I have to do is polish this up. No problem. Give me 10 minutes to render 1,000,000 flowers. I'm cool with going over the top, though. Like, if this short film takes me, like, 3 years to do, I think that's fine. I don't really have a deadline. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Yeah, wouldn't it, though? If I flattened everything and recorded it and I was just like, wow. Yeah, thanks for dropping by, Zebtoons. I'll see you on the YouTubes. Okay, so we do this on another level? Always new layers. Use your layers, kids. Don't flatten everything. Merp. See, now I'm getting precious already, and I'm starting to paint in these leaves, and I still haven't figured out my overall color or lighting yet. I'm kind of the worst. It'll all get done eventually, right? my husband's not working tomorrow, so I can stay up as late as I want. I usually have a bazillion layers with a stroke that I just can't get rid of in case I need it. Yeah, that's... I try and build my layers sensibly, and I try and flatten down as often as I can. So this top layer, I'm going to put some of the stuff on a separate layer, but something small like this, I just paint the flowers directly into the layer because it doesn't need to be super precise. I hate deformer mouths. I never manage them because they should just be drawn. Yeah, I don't know what I do, Tarwai, like, because I've never worked on a show that used deformer mouths. I've always worked on shows that have hand-drawn their mouths. On it, like, when I need something new, I redraw it. That's kind of my go-to. As a drawer, I just draw more stuff. I don't think that's a great solution for everybody. I think the only time I'd actually put a deformer in a mouth is if it was super close up and it needed like weird tongue wiggly action or something. That'd probably be necessary. What's this thing about bright colors? Where's my mind supposed to be at when coloring? I'm just slapping in colors at this point, and I'm going to change them later, which is not the best solution. Ideally, you're going to want to do some thumbnails and figure out your lighting ahead of time, but I'd skip that step because I'm super impatient. So we're just gonna keep using the sliders until the colors feel right. Or at least the tones. Tones are far more important than colors. Those peg-based mouths with the parts. That's... Yeah, those are really popular now in studios because the animators can kind of stretch and skew them a little bit and get in-betweens that way. Because not everybody can draw anymore. Which is a little bit sad in my heart. So in general, studio rigs are done for the masses. So if only like 60% of your staff can handle redrawing mouths all the time, then you're going to put in something simpler. So I find that the lips with the parts and stuff is kind of the best medium. Like, it's good for people who can't draw, and they can put in deformers if they need it, but it's also not so bad that you can't redraw if you need to. Yeah, I'm kind of... I like a mix of styles, too. Which is kind of why I never create anything. Like, I find it very easy to complete a task in my job. So I'll get... I mean, even now, I just have a show to work on. So they just give me all the episodes that are being worked on right now, and I have to make my own lists of what needs to get done, and I have to make sure that... I basically make my own schedule and make sure that I'm keeping up with the compositors and stuff like that. So I have no supervision. They're just like, can you put the effects in this show? Goodbye. And then they leave me alone and I put the effects in the show. If they want changes, they'll message me or they'll email me or somehow contact me and let me know that they want changes. But for the most part, I'm just kind of left to my own devices, and I have no trouble keeping on task and getting everything done on time. It's never been a problem. But then I do my own work, and I can't finish things. I just, like, I'll get halfway through, like now, I'll get this far, and then I'll see that, like, all those Samurai Jack things, and I'm like, oh, I've just gone to way too complex. I need to backtrack and completely redesign everything from scratch. And I've done that basically for the last 10 years. And I've never finished a thing. I've never done an art book. I've never done, like, any of the cool stuff that I'm like, oh, I would love to do these things, because I have a complex, like I'm never good enough to do anything. So now I'm like, okay, Tracy, you're gonna finish this short film come hell or high water. So this is going to be the style of the background, because it's kind of my natural inclination to do so. The character designs are just going to be like the first good thing that comes out, and once I hit the design, I'm not changing anything. I'm going to say this is locked, and like, because I can't lock things to myself, because you're always like, oh, this could have been better. Oh, I just need to fix this one thing. Yeah, I think you really need to be cruel with yourself. Like, you have to give yourself a deadline and then stick to it. So if you give yourself a week to design, like, the main character, do it in that week, and whatever you have that at the end of that week, it's locked. Because it's the best you can do right now, so it's done. Because, I mean, a week from then, you're like, oh, I could have done this better. Oops, I just learned a new thing. Don't be like me. Don't look back at decades of your life where you could have finished a thing. Yeah, like, just keep going. You just have to be... You have to be mean about it. And I'm, like, you know, this is like a practice what you preach kind of situation, because this is not something I'm good at. I just, like, I kind of, it's occurred to me now that I'm never going to feel good enough, and I've been kind of waiting for that moment to finish a thing, and that's never going to happen. So if I don't do it now, it's literally never going to happen. You're never going to feel good enough if you're not the type of person who feels that way. I know there's some people who think that their work is amazing, and I envy those people sometimes. Or they feel very confident about the style that they've kind of come into over the years or something. It's just, I'm not one of those people. It's just not a thing. And I don't think you can become that type of person. But I think the strength in being the type of person like us, where you're never satisfied, is that you're constantly learning. Yeah, I love motivational videos. They don't really change how I feel about my art, but they make me feel good when I'm listening to them. And that's something. Thanks, motivational videos. I've just, like I said, I've just kind of come to the decision that I'm never going to feel like I'm good enough, so I'm just going to make it anyway. And if I make something that I can't watch because it's awful, that's fine. I'll just shelf it. But I'm going to finish it. It's happening. I think I've kind of developed, I don't really have a style. I just think that when I'm not being conscious of how I'm drawing something, I kind of have a rut that I go towards. Like, I have all these trees, while I'm trying to keep them from being symmetrical, they still have about the same feel to them. And the leaves have the same sort of a thought to them. And it's kind of the way that I'm most comfortable drawing. I'm not thinking about aiming for anything. Yeah, I work with a lot of people who... Because, I mean, here's the thing. You have to just kind of choose what you're going to aim for job-wise. Because the first 3 to 4 years I was in the industry, I wasn't working as an animator. My first job, I was a rigger. Because I learned the technical stuff. And Harmony was Harmony didn't exist. It was Digital Pro. So there were no riggers out there. So it was an easy way to get my foot in the door. And then we didn't have an effects animator, so I was like, I'm just going to do the effects so that the character animators don't have to do it. And people were like, yeah, that seems like a good idea. Because I was in a very small studio, so I just kept shoving my foot indoors. After that, I was working as a compositor, but then I was an effects animator on the side. So it was like, when I finished the compositing, I was able to help out the effects animator. And I learned a lot more from him. A rigger and not a drawer. Exactly. Because it was easier for me to get in the door as a technical director, basically. And then after that, I was a compositor, a harmony compositor, because I understood the technical side of the program. And I was like an effects assistant. So when I finished all my compositing, I could help that guy. And then my next job, I was a rigger as well. And I'd finish my rigging early. And so I'd say, oh, well, can I go help the character animators? And they'd be like, yeah, well, that'd save us time. So then I was able to learn a lot there because, I'd spend half my time doing my rigging and then half my time animating. So I didn't start in the industry doing what I wanted to do. I kind of had to wiggle my way around because I'm not a talented person. I'm not one of those people who was gifted. I just keep doing it until it gets less bad. That seems to be working out so far. And eventually you'll become less bad to the point where you're a little better than a lot of the new people coming in behind you. So what portfolio piece? I've never submitted an animation portfolio that got me a job. I don't know what that says about me. Like I said, I got in as doing technical work. And my first animation gig, I was hired as the rigger, and it took me half the week to do my rigging work, and then I just walked over to the animation guys, and I was like, hey, can I help you guys? Because I'm done. And they were like, okay. And after that, I got my foot in the door to studio doing freelance rigging. Yeah, just be stubborn. Stubborn is way more useful than talent or any of that other stuff. Just be stubborn and YouTube can get you jobs. Yeah, I've been contacted since I started doing these videos through YouTube by people. But I also, when I wanted, I went to animation school. I moved to Toronto, which is the best place in Canada if you want to be a 2D animator. So I was in the place I needed to be, and I was shoving my face in everybody's business. I was like, can I do this too? Can I be here too? And I just kept getting into studios doing technical stuff, and then being like, oh, by the way, I also do this other stuff. Okay, can I do that too while I'm here? And now after 5 years, instead of doing half and half, it got to the point where I was doing 100% effects. Instead of helping effects, I started doing effects full time. I was offered a job at Rick and Morty and Ghost Animation Place. Oh, because of YouTube? Yeah, I've been contacted through YouTube. I've been contacted through Facebook. So if you're just out there, if you're making stuff that's decent, yeah. And it also really helps if you're in the right place. If you're in the United States, then Georgia has a lot of animation nowadays. I think I'm not huge on the American animation scene, so look into it. Obviously, LA is a place where animation happens, but it's not the only place. If you're in Canada or you're able to work in Canada and you do 2D, then Toronto is the best place in the country. Ottawa has some, which is not too far from Toronto. But it's 4 or 5 hour drive. It's not like you could live in one place and work in the other. The guy who did the Bob's Burgers fan animation also got hired at Georgia. Yeah. Sweet. Once you're... you just have to be stubborn, really. Getting the first job is very hard. Because if they have somebody who has somebody with a bit of experience, then they can call that the studio that they worked at and say, like, who is this guy? Is he nice? Does he, you know, is he a jerk? Because that's a big part of it. There's just so much less risk on their part. The insurance commercials? Not sure what you mean. Honestly, I just say the best thing you could do, because you and I have the same personality from what I'm reading there, is just figure out, say, okay, I'm going to do blank, and for me, it's a short film. So every week, I'm going to set myself an attainable goal that's headed towards that. So this week, I'm going to do some visual development and think about this background, this like the forest, and think about the house. So I've just been doing some studies. I can show you some of the rough stuff I've been going through. Oop. So many layers. I gotta calm this thing down. So I started like here, like super duper simple. Insurance. And I'm just looking at different house shapes and looking at Pinterest at towers and filling my Pinterest board. So this was my weekly goal, was just to play with this tower and think about that shape. And then I ended up doing some thumbnails of different angles and different ways we could be looking at it. Like this one's probably more appropriate. It's a little bit creepier. And I kind of ended up at this one. But that was the only thing I had to do for this week, was to finish, or was to just play with this. And now next week I'll set myself another attainable goal. And I mean, eventually, if you keep giving yourself small goals headed towards the large goal, you'll run out of goals. And the thing will be done. And even if you just start, like if you do like comics and make yourself like, say, okay, I'm going to do a 6-page comic. And then write a short story that could be done in 6 pages and finish it, and then just get it done. And then just having something done will give you the confidence to do like a 12-page or something a little bit bigger. Because, yeah, that's one thing I do all the time. I'll say I want to do a short film, but like then there's so much I have to do that I can't do anything because it's too insurmountable. But I can, like, and I don't know why I can do it at work, but I can't do it at home. It's dumb. Let's see if I can cut this tree out because I flattened it. Yeah. It's sort of okay. So, come up with a little thing you can do. That's another good song. Not going to sing. So it's nearly 11:30, so I'm gonna go until midnight. So another half hour or so. So if you guys have any requests in the meantime. Yeah, it kind of does feel like that. That's another thing. I really like world building. Like I mentioned that I've written a bunch of really bad novels. And my novel, like, again, it's not a simple story. It has to do with a multiverse and monsters taking over another world. And it's so big. Like, I couldn't possibly write it well from the standpoint of someone who is an amateur writer. But I like doing it, and I think that's fine for writing because I don't want to be a writer. I just enjoy writing. So if I never finish any of these terrible novels, that's totally fine with me. But I mean, I do kind of want to be an animator, and I like story, like, you know what I mean? Like, I should finish some sort of art project on the side. That's been a goal in my life that I've just neglected due to, like, self-doubt. No, I said I was gonna not get finicky, and what did I do? I don't even know my light. I'm the worst. Okay, let's get this stuff in the back working a bit better. Stop playing with texture. You gotta earn your texture. No, you need a folder of your very own. I'm gonna... I should save a new version and then get rid of some of these layers. I'm not usually, like when I'm animating and stuff, I don't make a ton of new versions. But if I'm painting a background this complex, I'll version this thing. Yeah, my son's 2.5, so I try and get him to draw with me. And he sometimes lasts about 10 minutes and then he gets really bored. And I'm super happy when that happens. This weekend, it was a long weekend here, and I tried to get him to paint with me. And twice, both Saturday and Sunday, he came over and he sat down. And I was like, oh, so we'll do some painting. So I gave him his own little water bucket, some cheap temper paints. And he just took it and slopped around and turned the water blue or yellow. And then he just poured the whole thing on himself. And he was like, I'm done. I'm like, you're the worst. Why did you do that? That's not painting. And it wasn't he didn't accidentally tip over the water. He literally just dumped the water on himself and then laughed. I'm like, my child is just sarcastic like his mother. So the painting thing didn't pan out. I'm hoping as he gets a little bit bigger, he likes art. Or I guess if he likes reading, that would also allow me to do a lot of art. Because my husband has zero interest in art at all, so he might take after him. Who knows? He's like Picasso. Oh, that's gross. Don't say nasty stuff about my child. Rockstar supervillain. By the time you read this, it's too late. I'm already high. Well, at least you're having a good time. Yeah, that'd be my worst nightmare if my child turned out to be like a figurative artist. Like, he didn't do representational art at all. Oh my god. Oh, I'm like, but you have to learn to paint first before you could paint. No. Don't you dare say that's my style. Can you imagine? This is bad art, son. No, Mom, that's my style. Ah! It's my nightmare. Abstract art that sells for millions. Honestly, if he wants to make millions, that'd be cool. I could use a good home. I need to make sure that I have a kid who can afford to put me in a good home with a good Cintiq. I just do my old-timey animation. Make sure I'm doing this on a separate layer. Yeah, my husband's an aircraft maintenance engineer, so he's more into the, you know, mechanics, and he's really interested in engineering and stuff like that kind of stuff, so maybe he'll be that kind of intellectual sort of person. He won't get interested in art. I don't know. I think that would be better for me than like a hoity-toity fine artist. I wouldn't know what to do with that. Yeah, if I won the lottery, I'd go back home to Newfoundland and I'd build a little house next to my parents' house and I'd just draw. I just have a little studio there where I could just animate and draw all day. I'd probably still do this YouTube thing. I'd just do it from like an eccentric millionaire standpoint. But I'd love to be able to go home. That's my dream. Every now and then, just for fun, I'll check the art listings for Newfoundland. And, like, I'll look up if there's any, like, artist jobs. And it's like, sandwich artist, now available, sandwich artist, sandwich artist. I'm like, guess that's, maybe next year. But I mean, I could work remotely. It's more my husband can't get a job there because it's a desolate island full of the elderly. No one lives there. Now I'm getting finicky again. Damn it, Tracy. Just think about the big lights and shadows. Like my rocks shouldn't be purple too. See, now my whole rock is the wrong color. Yeah, sandwich artist. That's about the best you can hope for. I guess that's cool too, if you're into that. Let me see if I can do this the easy way. Because I'm pretty sure my rocks were supposed to be like an orangey color. Oh, these are pretty gray. The near ones I had in sort of a gray orange. These ones are pretty blued out. I had a plan here. An abstract sandwich. That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. You know what, though? That'd be a high-end restaurant. If you were an abstract sandwich artist, you'd have to be one of those like fancy pants places where it's like $110 a plate, and you go and collect moss from your garden and just leaves from the yard waste, and you'd put it all together and then put ketchup over it or something. Yeah, like lots of stuff you can find nearby. And then there would be no bread, but there'd be like stalks of wheat. Ugh. Hate those guys. I wish I was a hustler, really. That's what it boils down to. There's literally restaurants out there that sell like fancy dirt. Like you go and you pay hundreds of dollars to sit down, and then they give you like pureed mulch and they say it's like supposed to be like an earthy experience or something, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I was a hustler. I'd be so rich. I'd be so bad at sales and stuff. I don't have that in me. That salesman gene. I feel bad about everything. I have way too much of a guilt complex to be able to sell people dirt. Something else. How do we make this less? I think that's an okay color. We can always just change it on the scale later. Oh, abstract art. I have a little bit more of an appreciation for abstract art nowadays, because I've watched a lot of art documentaries in the last couple of years. So I was like, okay, what is up with this art? And some of it is, I mean, it has interesting story behind it. It's just really not what I want to do with myself. There are a lot of types of art. I know there are things I could do on my channel that would make it bigger faster, that I'm not doing it. Like, I know I could make Sonic the Hedgehog animation and people would flock to that for some reason, or I could do stuff that's really just thematic, like whatever's the hottest thing right now. A lot of people make animations on that, like politics or whatever the latest trend is. But it's just, I'm not doing that. I'm not a hustler. It has to be, I have to do something that feels authentic to me, or I feel like, why would I do that? And there are people who are fine artists who genuinely believe in what they're doing, and you listen to them talk. Like, there's this one guy, I can't remember his name, but he does these hyper realistic portraits of his own face, and that's all he paints is his own face, and he's done it for years. And you listen to him talk, and he believes that. He's like, oh, this is so deep and spiritual. I'm like, cool, like, you do you, guy. It's just, I haven't got it in me. Even if it would make me millions of dollars. Or I could move to Mexico. And that shouldn't be that color. We'll add you to the background. So, or anime. Minecraft would make them flock to your channel, but I cannot draw blocky characters and be happy. Yeah, I don't, like, that's another thing that I've kind of gotten more interested as I've gotten older. Because I grew up on an island in the middle of nowhere, I never really encountered anime until I moved here in my 20s. And I really like a lot of it. A lot of the stories are just amazing. I think it's really cool how much they'll get into these adult stories and these really wonderful, like, the storytelling so much more interesting, I think, than North American animation. But the style of it is just not, it's not something that I do. I've never been an anime, like, a lot of people go through anime phases when they're younger. I was just never really exposed to it until I was an adult. But I would like to do some studies of their effects, because they do some super cool effects overseas. Little Witch Academia has some incredible effects that I've been kind of like ogling over that I want to do some studies on. I just have so much stuff and not enough time. But you'll never see me do an anime on my channel or learn to draw anime. And I know that stuff, I mean, it's popular, but it's just, it's not what I do. It's not my thing. So you're just stuck with whatever this is. I'm okay with my little channel of things that I love doing. I don't need that. The audience that doesn't dig it. But for my job, I'll do any old thing for money. Any of those employers out there, you send me some stuff I don't like, I'll animate the guts out of that for a paycheck. Not a problem. Thanks, Matador. I'm never gonna sleep tonight. My son was up at 5 a.m. and I drank a proportional amount of coffee. So I know I have to go to bed at some point, but I don't think it's going to work. And now, see, if I'd worked out my color scheme ahead of time, I wouldn't be gradually building up these rocks. I'd know what I wanted shape-wise out of them. That's what happens when you skip steps. Don't skip steps. Now I'm just kind of feeling out the lighting instead of having a plan. Which is not a plan. That's okay. That's starting to look round. I'm gonna stop mucking with it. Let's move on. Just keep moving on, and eventually we'll have it all done. Grumble, grumble. Yeah, like I could have done some thumbnails just to figure out exactly where I wanted my lighting, because I completely changed it from the beginning. So when I started, this was kind of the lightest area and this was really dark. And now I've kind of turned that around. I wanted this area to be a bit darker and like more spooky. So the lighting doesn't match. Like there's no uniform lighting scheme here. So now I'm going to start from the back and then kind of work my way forward and then change it so that this stuff's getting lighter and this stuff's getting darker. So it would have just been quicker had I done thumbnails in the first place. Oh, bye, Tara-Y. Tiara? Is it T-R-O-I? I've been saying Tara-Y. I'm a monster. Yeah, I'm only going to be here for about 15 more minutes, and then I'm going to go to bed. Because, like, even if I, like, that's the worst thing about insomnia. If you know you're not going to fall asleep for, like, 4 hours, like, staying up later just means you're going to fall asleep later. It doesn't mean you're going to fall asleep easier. I hate sleep. It's so annoying. But I love when my son sleeps, so I can't give it up altogether. Can't wish it out of the world, because then I'd never get anything done. So now, because I have no plan, I'm not really sure how I'm going to light the house. And because I don't know how I'm going to light the house, I don't know how to put the background so that it's going to showcase the house. Because dark on top of light makes things seem darker, or light on top of dark makes things seem lighter. So winging it is usually less effective. let's say that this is going to be... Yeah, darker does work better. So we'll make this wall sort of a darker area. And then build this up as a front face. And I have to change some of this like line art I did, but it's more important that the house stands out than I have this little tree here. I think I can get away with that part. So what's today? Today is Monday. So I might actually have some time tomorrow night to work on this. What resolution? No, it's just 300. 300 DPI, and it's 8,000 by 4,000. So it's not the biggest canvas in the world, but I mean it's big enough. Because I never really intend to get super close to the house. This is an HD monitor. I don't know how that affects what you're seeing. But I think this part of the house, I'm definitely going to, like, this area, I'm going to have to do an HD version of. Just that, like, so I'll take, say, this much and scale it up and do a high resolution cleanup of it. But I don't think this is the final version of the house yet. I'm just kind of getting overboard on my study here. Because I was just kind of thinking about what this would actually look like. This just the first shot you see of the house, and I got overboard and I started rendering it out and cleaning up the line art, and you know how it goes. And then I started changing my lighting, so nothing makes sense. So I'm gonna have to play with these sliders a lot to get my lighting working a little bit better. And then I'll update. Yeah, like I'm such a sucker. The details are the most fun, but you gotta earn your details. If you don't, because right now the overall picture isn't working. The tonal composition is not there, and so what I should have done is taken a step to do some thumbnails and figured out what my actual tonal pattern was going to be, so that this house was really standing out as the most important thing. and then I should have gone in and painted it. So now I think what I'm going to do is take a step back and do some tonal thumbnails. Because, I mean, all of these, even if the colors and stuff aren't working, like the flats are fine. I do have a lot of stuff separated now, so that's going to be helpful when I'm fixing it up. And I don't think the composition's bad, because like once you've seen it, like once it's put in here, it's working pretty good. I just think that the tones have to be adjusted. That's where I am at that stage. I think that should be lower as well. Then I can muck around in here and really nitpick the guts out of this stuff. Make sure that my camera is planing exactly where I need it to. Thumbnails are so great because you can get so much done in a thumbnail. So underrated. Like I showed you, I'll pull this up to the top. Hopefully that's the right, nope, that's the wrong layer. I don't even know where my roughs are anymore. I've lost them. Those just little simple thumbnail studies. I didn't label anything. You're gonna get so much done faster. Just if you're thinking about like designing the little house or whatever. And there's lots of great concept art guys out there that do stuff like this, where they just start with a little lasso tool and they build up something like this and then fill it. And they're like, how do I feel like this is a house shape? Or they'll do something like that and fill it in and then see what kind of shapes they have, what they can build things into. Yeah, in like a composition one. Where did I put them? I had all of them in here. Let's just deactivate everything and find it. I did do thumbnails of the composition for this one. Oh, I think I know where I can find it. There we go. Aha, instead of making you watch me go through the folders. Where did you go? So these were my initial, like my first round of thumbnails just for the house shape. So I just did little silhouettes of different shapes. And I just used the lasso tool and just filled it in black. And like, what am I feeling? And then I can like copy and paste them. And then for the thumbnail, just thinking about the actual composition, I just did these super simple black and white studies. Trying to figure, okay, is the house above me perspective-wise? Is the house in the middle, kind of in a swamp? And they don't need to be good drawings. Like, they only need to be clear to you, right? So here, like, another upward perspective. Here it's kind of sitting on the plane. Think about it on a little island. So it's not, like, it's just the thinking process. And I have more in here, which I think so there we go. That's useful. Boop. So I'll create a plain, like just a bunch of thumbnails like this. And I'll just go in with, I love this brush. It's just a big old flat, like there's nothing to it. And you can just throw in a quick house like this. Like, okay, he's sitting here. Here's my plane. And I could throw in some trees. And if I like it, then I can refine it. So, I might just bring my brush down in size and think about it a little more. And then once I have something I like, I could go in and use this exact same template to figure out the tonal pattern of it. I wish I could find them. Is that you? There you are. I just put it in a subfolder because I'm a genius. So let's bring this stuff up. So this is the initial rough design of this overall background. Like you can see it's nothing to like write home about, but it gives you a general idea of the composition of it. And here's some more thumbnails I did. And some of these got a little bit more refined. But I could take, say this one now, if this is the one I decided that I liked, I just crop it out and paste it onto a new layer and scale it up. Or even keep it small. If I'm going to do, say I'm going to do lighting, I just copy and paste it a bunch of times. And now this one I could say is lit from this side. And I could just go through and quickly mask out the stuff that I knew had to be in the light. And then, dang it. There you go. So just use like a simple fill over the top. Or you could even just use a low opacity brush and then just box in some light and shadow like this. Yeah, well, I mean, animation, I just do, like my thumbnails would be like little stick men, right? So you've got this guy being smug. And, you know, whatever he needs to do, he needs to reach this way, do his exercise. So, I mean, there's a way to thumbnail basically anything you want to do. And then even if you just do it to this refinement, and you can time it out, you can space out your keys and see how well it's working before you actually go in and do any of the like hard work. Save yourself time in the long run. So my next step is to go back in time and visit the lighting of this piece. Because then you can just turn the whole light around super fast and see how well it's working. Because this takes seconds versus trying to recolor this entire massive background, which is what I've been kind of doing while I was talking. Yeah, for sure. And you could also do like fast compositing, because you can just use like a gradient. See, oh, like what happens if I blow out this background? Put a light source right behind it. What's that look like? It's just so much faster to think. Go through your thinking stage that way. All right. So I'm gonna go pretend to sleep and enjoy my insomnia time. Thanks for dropping by, peoples. And having a little chat. It's always been better when someone talks to me, or else I'm just sitting here like talking to myself like a crazy person. Yeah, for sure. See you guys on YouTubes. I don't know what I'm posting Wednesday yet. I haven't got it done. I gotta think of something real fast. Alright, bye.